It is indeed my honor at this time to present the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Tuskegee University, retired Major General Charles Williams, as well as the 7th president of Tuskegee University, Dr. Brian Johnson. Let us all stand, please.
Good morning, everyone. This is a wonderful day, absolute wonderful day for the southern tip of the Black Belt in the state of Alabama. So to the Johnson family, trustees and their spouses, alumni, faculty and staff. And while we're on staff, is Mr. Lewis Rabb here? Let me tell you something about this staff member. Over 100 years old, personal friend and a mentor. And every time I do it, he do it. To our wonderful students, my wife, ladies and gentlemen, this, as I said before, is a wonderful day. It is a historic day for Tuskegee University because we are reminded that on these grounds, 133 years ago, our founder, Booker T. Washington, age 25, set everything in motion for this institution and got us started. So now we look back 100 years ago and determined that he left us with the following institutional assets: 1,500 students, approximately 200 staff members, a $2 million endowment, about 2,400 acres of land, about 100 buildings and structures, 40 trades we now call majors, and a sterling reputation for excellence in education. So today, I have the privilege of introducing and presenting to you the 7th president. I will start first by presenting his family. Their youngest son, Nathan Morgan Kadesh Johnson. Morgan is in the 4th grade. Their oldest son, Brian Asa Johnson. Brian is 10 years old. And Brian is in the 5th grade. That beautiful lady who's sitting with the boys has been the wind beneath this man's wings for over 14 years, called by him his sweetheart, confidant, best friend and wife. And like my wife and so many others, they met in college. I present to you our next First Lady, Ms. Shamika B. Johnson. In just 19 years, Brian Johnson graduated magna cum laude from Johnson C. Smith University with a bachelor's degree of art in English, received a master's of art in English from the University of Wisconsin at Madison, and a PhD in English from the University of South Carolina. After 6 months of intense search work, and from a list of over 40 applicants from every corner of this country, the Tuskegee University Board of Trustees voted unanimously on April 28, 2014, that Dr. Brian Johnson was the right fit for the president of Tuskegee University at this time. We saw in him a man that had served as a university vice president, led a successful SACS reaffirmation for a university with student enrollment 3 times the size of Tuskegee. He had served as an assistant provost, as an associate vice president for student affairs, a university chief of staff, a director, a professor, and on a university board of trustees. He is, in our opinion, a very strong and articulate leader, a superb and effective manager. He's very bright and a critical thinker, understands the value of solid strategic planning, and he is serious about organizational outcomes and measurable performances from all components of the enterprise. It was clear to the board that he had prepared himself well for this responsibility and is considered in higher education to be an expert in institutional effectiveness. And we, as a board, are convinced that he will carry on this institution's vision of inspiring, supporting, and educating the hands, the hearts, and the minds of our wonderful students. While his bio has been made available to you, I want to highlight just an accomplishment or two. I want you to note that his PhD thesis and other writings centered around the 17th through the 19th centuries on American history. He has authored or edited 7 academic scholarly books. One covered the Yancey years, commemorating Dr. Yancey's 14 years as president of Johnson C. Smith, where her focus was on infrastructure, technology, and fundraising. He was named as a 2012-13 ACE Fellow, that's the American Council of Education Fellow. His work was centered on fundraising, and he did this work at Indiana University, Purdue University, at Indianapolis in the Chancellor's office. He was a 2012-13 Association of American Schools and Colleges Universities Millennium Leadership Initiative Fellow, a 2011-12 Tennessee Board of Regents Maxine Smith Fellow for higher education in that state, 2006-07 Woodrow Wilson Career Enhancement Sabbatical Fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our 7th president of this historic institution, Dr. Brian Lamont Johnson.
Thank you. Many, many, many thanks to each and every one of you who have taken time out of your schedule, whether you were required to or not, for attending this historic occasion, not so much because of me, but because of this great institution, Tuskegee University. I want to begin by thanking the University Board of Trustees. I want to thank its chairman. I want to thank each and every member of that Board of Trustees who has invested in me the opportunity to steward and work together with faculty and staff and our students here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I also would like to thank the Tuskegee University alumni. I can tell you immediately and quickly for our students who will eventually become alumni that this body of individuals are certainly passionate, enlivened, and enthusiastic about its institution by the many emails and the many phone calls and the many tweets on social media and Facebook, and they will let you know it. I want to thank the Tuskegee University alumni for investing in me the opportunity to steward this great university. I want to thank the Tuskegee University faculty whose accomplishments are renowned, whose accomplishments not only among historically black colleges and universities, but amongst institutions, period, have certainly set the bar of success in many areas at a very high place, and I want to thank the faculty. I also want to thank our staffers who are in no wise behind in any way of any of these constituencies, for these individuals serve this institution in a variety of capacities, from grounds to chief of police to institutional effectiveness to administrative assistance to the cafeteria to culinary services, just throughout. So I want to thank the staff members as well for the opportunity to steward here. And finally, and certainly not least, I want to thank the Tuskegee University student body. I want to thank you, first of all, for choosing Tuskegee University. You have a number of options when you sit down to fill out FAFSA paperwork, and you have a number of options when you are hearing a great many voices coming to you about what type of institution and what type of environment you want to be trained in, because make no mistake, the 4 years that you spend at a university are certainly the most impressionable in your life. It's beyond simply getting a job. It is about, as the chairman noted, what's going into your heart as well as in your mind. And Tuskegee University is by far, in my opinion, the premier institution in the land of higher education. And I do wish to thank friends of Tuskegee University, both locally and regionally and nationally and globally. I want to thank you also for friending this institution, both now but also in the future. I want to thank future friends. I want to thank future faculty members, future staff members, future students. I want to thank future supporters. I want to thank them now in advance, because this is a family which I've been reminded of so aptly since taking on this post, at least being elected to the post. It's a family that I believe can certainly grow larger and bigger and faster in a way that can really, absolutely, truly transform not only this institution, but transform the entire nation and transform the entire world. So I want to thank those future supporters. Thank you for welcoming me and my family to Tuskegee University. I want to start by thanking my wife of 14 years. She's already been introduced, but I would be less than a president, less than a man, less than a husband, less than a father, less than any of those titles if I did not acknowledge the wife of my youth, if I did not acknowledge the woman that I met on a university campus when I was serving in the Honors College and she was visiting. And of course, she was in my student orientation leadership group. So guys, if you ever serve student orientation leadership, you might, I'm not saying you should look for a future wife, but I am saying that perhaps you might find a future wife. I want to thank my wife, Shamika Barnes-Johnson. Again, I'm going to ask her to stand up. I love my wife. I appreciate my wife. And she's one of the few people who actually can whip me into shape. But then, of course, I've met the chairman now, so I think there are now exactly 2 people who will be able to do that. I'd like to thank my two youngest sons again, and I'll have them to stand up again, Brian Asa and Nathan Morgan Kadesh. They were ages 10 and 9. These are my sons. These are my future. I want to see them do well. I want to see them excel, and in no wise, shape, or lacking in any way, in the same way that I want to see Tuskegee University students. So I want to thank them also. And I want to thank them for their willingness to embark on what my family and I, what the Board of Trustees and I, and what prayerfully every single person within the sound of my voice is looking for: a very long, a very prosperous, a very successful tenure at Tuskegee University. My remarks at this time will be relatively brief. They were designed to be brief because oftentimes, if you're at all invited to be a speaker, you just never know how many people will actually be there. I know that we have this hour assigned for 60 minutes, and I will try not to bore students beyond the time that you're required to sit in here. I will try not to address all the issues and questions and concerns of every single person at this institution right now who's burning with what is he going to do and what is he going to say. What I want to do at this time is to give you at least an overview of those, if you will, the theme, if you will, of my presidency, the hallmarks of my presidency, and beyond that, to give you some sense about my leadership style, what I intend to do, what I will do, what we together will do at this great institution. Aligned to its historic mission, its 2013-2023 strategic plan, Tuskegee University will become an outcomes-oriented organization. We are a university first and foremost. This is who we are. However, we want to have demonstrative, measurable successes in the entirety of the institution. Outcomes-oriented simply means it's not punitive. There's an outcome, I didn't get it, I'm out the door. Outcomes-oriented is the same concept and notion that we expect from our students when they go into the classroom. When faculty members see our students and they expect for our students to succeed. Well, how do we know you succeeded? Well, we see the outcomes of what their learning has attested to. Similarly speaking, my administrative philosophy, my leadership philosophy will be to understand what the outcomes are of every single unit at the institution. Not the familiarities, not the friendships, not the who is the person that you should listen to, but outcomes oriented. And one of the reasons for that is because, frankly, the Board of Trustees expects me to be outcomes oriented. And whenever you are in a position of leadership, whenever you're in a position of service, you certainly want to be judged by your personality. You want to be judged by your friendships and your laughter and how many times I can make you laugh. But at the end of the day, what Tuskegee University will be judged by internally amongst ourselves, but also externally, will be by what are we producing throughout the entirety of the university. Not where one arm is strong. I think about the analogy of somebody going to bodybuild and they're going and they're only working on the upper pecs. Now, of course, I'm no bodybuilder. I lift books, but I don't do a lot of weightlifting. But we certainly want to ensure that we weight lift using all aspects of the university, so that when I am speaking to potential donors, potential friends, potential supporters, potential foundations, I can say, oh, not this is what we think and this is what I believe and we have a great tradition. Yes, we have a great tradition. We will always honor that tradition. But we want to be able to talk tangibly in a very pragmatic way about who we are, what we're achieving, and what we're doing. So this theme of an outcomes-oriented organization, I want everyone within the sound of my voice to not fear, but to simply understand that as an institution, as an academic university, we want to be thorough, we want to be exceptional, we want to be objective, we want to be a university that anyone, everywhere, HBCU, predominantly white institution, minority serving institution, every single institution in this nation, in this world, will see tangibly why we are successful. And these hallmarks within an outcomes-oriented organization are within the following 5 categories. First and foremost, it will be devoted to creating a student-centered culture. A student-centered culture. Not a Dr. Johnson-centered culture, not a Board of Trustees-centered culture, not a faculty member student culture, centered culture, not a staff member. All of us play our roles. God knows I'm aware of the role I play. However, when we talk about student-centeredness, we are talking about understanding the reason why we're here. Students who are purchasing an education, students who are investing in their lives, students who are expecting services and expecting standards that they will meet when they leave this great institution. Oh, they'll leave with a lot of love and a lot of family support, and they'll leave with all the things that Tuskegee has done well also, but we also want to convert these students into future alumni who will give back readily, whether it's monetarily, whether it's just in fervor and introducing more individuals to Tuskegee University. We want to treat them as our most precious reason for getting up every single day. So creating a student-centered culture, it means student success. It means student engagement beyond the classroom, on the campus, their activities within the residential dorms, within the chapel, within the student center, their whole university experience. It means a commitment beyond our 9 to 5. It means a commitment to the students because it's the reason why these bricks were built by our esteemed founder, Booker T. Washington. He didn't build it so that we could all note his famous works and his famous speeches and his famous books and his famous reputation. He built it so that he could build a people, a group of students, a nationhood, an entire nation of African Americans as well as persons from other racial and ethnic groups that will be able to go forward into society and be productive members. So we will commit to being a student-centered culture, and we will also do so bearing in mind that these students have been sent here by parents. So their satisfaction is also in keeping with a student-centered culture. So that when the parents drop them off, when the parents come to have an experience here, the parents feel good about where their students are. This will be a commitment. This will be something that is at the very top and at the very priority of my time here at Tuskegee University. The second hallmark of my presidency will be to fully inaugurate 21st century higher education at Tuskegee University. Again, none of these things are new. I am not coming as the great Messiah, the great Savior. I am building on a very grand and glorious tradition. The way I like to talk with people about Tuskegee University is, it is a Maserati, it's a Lamborghini, or whatever the latest, Malbec. I know many of the students know these cars that many of these people drive. I'm not that familiar with the very luxurious cars, but this is a car ready to be fully driven into the 21st century. We are 14 years into the 21st century, and Tuskegee is present. We're here. We rank very highly. But when I mean fully inaugurating, I mean fully recognizing and reaching our potential. Not just simply a great HBCU, which Tuskegee have already exceeded. But I'm simply suggesting we want to be the premier 21st century higher educational institution. And quite simply, we do this through innovative, expanded academic programming and instruction, infrastructure, and technology. It means that when we think of any institution, any organization, academic or otherwise, the same things that we expect when we leave the campus are the same things we would like to have here at this institution. It means that you will find me on Facebook and Twitter, and it's okay. I have to give the story of saying, well, is he on Facebook and Twitter all day? No, there's a device called Hootsuite where you can simply schedule your tweets. You can be on Facebook without actually literally being on Facebook. It gives you a presence in a place where, guess what? Our students are. Our students are on Facebook and Twitter. Now, what this means is clearly you have people from time to time, including students or persons who want to ask you a personnel-related question or some administrative question. Listen, this is social media. It's a virtual world, not the real world. The real world will be in the administration of the institution, in our meetings, in our memorandums, in our agendas, in our minutes, in our documentable, verifiable evidence that we are truly an outcomes-oriented organization. It won't be by how many tweet replies I get. It won't be, oh, Dr. Johnson, you're great, but then Dr. Johnson is the one dealing with the idea that you want me to do. No, it simply means as a 21st century university that there is multiple ways of engaging multiple constituencies, particularly our students. And so I want us to be fully into the 21st century. We're 14 years into it. Our founder, Booker T. Washington, died exactly 100 years ago next year. He left us with 1,500 students. We are currently at 3,000 students. Our strategic plan suggests that we should be at maybe 6,000 in 10 years. I want to exceed that number. I want to ensure that we, as an institution, become a light that a number of students from a variety of backgrounds want to attend because of its tradition, but also because of its trajectory, of where we're going in the 21st century. The third hallmark of an outcomes-oriented organization, and again, I want to reiterate, we are still an academic university. I'm quite familiar with academic freedom. I'm quite familiar with scholarly freedom. I'm quite familiar with, hey, we're a university. We're a university. We're not a business. I'm quite familiar with all of those things. However, when I suggest that we're an outcomes university, it means I want to be able to qualify and quantify at all times why you should invest in this institution, why students should come to this institution. And generally speaking, in the 21st century, generally speaking, people want to see as opposed to hear. And so this third piece is administering efficient resource management, data-informed decision-making, effective human resource and personnel management. We have heard about the crises in higher education, not simply amongst HBCUs. And indeed, there have been crises at predominantly white institutions, at historically black institutions. And a lot of crises are indeed crises. When you think of a crisis, we most recently remind ourselves of what happened with Katrina or the many earthquakes and tsunamis and things of that nature. And indeed, those are preventable crises. Crises that are not preventable. Crises where you have absolutely no control of. However, there are some not so called crises that occur simply because of mismanagement. where existing resources could be marshaled differently, where resources are marshaled towards either personnel or individuals or units where it might be better spent in another unit, where deferred maintenance is deferred in the interest of doing other things as opposed to doing the things that are needful. Now, I think everybody within the sound of my voice who has any recollection or any semblance of understanding Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington was not about style at all. Booker T. Washington was a man of substance. If he saw that something needed to be fixed, he wasn't worried about getting a new, pretty, this or that. He's going to make sure it got fixed. Now, that's not going to win you a lot of points in the press. It's not going to win you a lot of points with alumni or media. Hey, we want to do a big grand thing. No, actually, I'm going to go down here and fix the boilerplate. When we talk about efficient resource management, we're talking about how are we utilizing our resources? How do we understand what our resources are? What is this system? What is the philosophy for understanding it? Oh, this person knows because he's been here 30 years. This person knows because they've been here 2 years. No. Efficient resource management means documentable, verifiable, data-driven, memo-driven, document-driven. This is what we mean when we say efficient resource management. This is not a new beginning. If you want to learn of me, you can Google me, you can ask about me, and generally speaking, I've been told I'm a young man, although I think 4 of the 7 presidents were either 40 years old or younger. But in the span of my 40 years, though I've been short on some years, I've been very long on some very deep experiences in a variety of contexts. Small HBCUs, large predominantly white institutions, small private liberal arts colleges, major research universities, sitting and observing a $2 billion capital campaign, sitting and observing and participating in a $50 million campaign, sitting and watching and observing a $9 million endowment as opposed to a 130, 40, 50 plus endowment. But the very continuity of all of these experiences are what I have seen has been challenges in how persons, presidencies in back of the positions, behind the positions, have managed resources, personnel in their units. Again, this is a culture that I want to infuse here. It's a culture that I myself infuse into my own life. I will not go to the Board of Trustees and shake the general's hand and say, oh, I'm okay, and no, I'm coming with results. And I want people around me who are results-oriented, outcomes-driven. Now, I'm a fun guy, too, so I don't want you guys to think I'm, this guy, we can have some laughter, and there will be a time for that. And trust me, students, you'll see me at a lot of football, basketball, softball, and you see me on social media and Twitter. So if anyone knows me and takes the time to learn of me, you know that I do also have a sense of humor. However, in the administration and the discharge and the stewardship of this office, this is my administrative philosophy. I am outcomes driven. I'm not favorite driven. I'm not friendship driven. I'm not race driven. I'm not culturally driven. That's just not who I am. If you're not aware of that, if you're not familiar with that, you may need to ask my wife or ask people who have worked with me. I speak straight, I write straight, I articulate straight, but then also when it's time to have fun, I like to have fun straight and straight ways too. So I do want to iterate that third point, that efficient resource management will be a hallmark of my presidency. Number 4. Obtaining a market and increased enrollment, recruitment, retention, and persistence. We talk, Tuskegee University is great with its retention, excellent. You can look at first to second year rates, you can look at second to third year rates. But I'll be spending a lot of time learning and understanding what we're doing with 21st century recruitment, but also 21st century persistence. I talked in point 2 about innovative academic programming. Everyone knows that we are and will continue to be a STEM-centered leading university throughout all of higher education. This is who we are. This is part of our DNA. However, when one talks about persisting, there are some occasions where students find that, you know, my gifts, my skill sets, my talents may not lend themselves towards STEM. They may lend themselves to arts and letters. I intend to strengthen STEM by putting the A in STEM, putting some STEAM in STEM, by making sure that this institution is also an institution that focuses on arts and letters as well as STEM. And I want to explain this to my STEM colleagues, because I don't want STEM colleagues, oh, see, I knew this English guy's gonna change. We're not gonna be STEM. Trust me, there are too many board members who give, too many alumni who give in STEM. STEM is not going anywhere. But here's how you help STEM. We talk about efficient resource management. If we are simply relying upon STEM, and we do not have an adequate, a broader, holistic academic philosophy, then as times change, as we move into the 22nd century, I won't be here, but maybe I will. 100 years, that'll be approximately 80. I'm a young man, right? So I would be about 120, seeing the esteemed, distinguished 100-plus-year-old gentleman here who was a mentor of the chairman. But all the same, students are living longer. One of the very important, I think, attributes of a liberal arts education that helps to strengthen STEM is the ability to read, the ability to write, the ability to think, the ability to come hear a lecture in the chapel or in the auditorium or theatrical events on campus. We have a student center. It will be fully functional and engaged by our students. And I believe that arts and letters have a place in the soul of a university. If we will not simply rest upon our colleagues in the STEM area, we will be able to help our colleagues in the STEM area, so eventually perhaps they might be able to get even further reduced course loads, because guess what? Students who are not either persisting towards degrees in STEM or students who wish to come to this university and major in other areas and thus increase our enrollment, it places less pressure on STEM. It'll give STEM even more steam, the A in STEM. So I want to be very clear that a marked and increased enrollment will require an outcomes-oriented STEM college, an outcomes-oriented agriculture college, an outcomes-oriented arts and letters college, an outcomes-oriented throughout the academic divisions and units. And there are ways to do that. And I'm not referring to student learning outcomes. We're talking about program outcomes. And I'll be meeting and talking with deans and be meeting and talking with all types of persons in the university so that it's unequivocal, not unmistakable of what I'm referring to. I will be fully present, fully willing to meet with anyone to explain in detail. Now, I can't meet with everybody. Let me just say this right now, because I've gotten all types of emails, requests for a meeting. Listen, I am the president, and I am going to meet with as many people as possible, but I have a huge staff of administrators, faculty, and staff who are within various units, and they will be able to help me. This will not be, and I dare say, I'm not at all graced to do what the esteemed founder Booker T. Washington did at 25 that will never be repeated in history. But what I am graced to do is to empower people, to expect people, regardless of race, and gender, and color, and religion, to produce outcomes. Simple as that. That's how I want to be judged. I'm a nice guy. I have a great family. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I want to be evaluated on outcomes and producing. And thus I will need people to help me produce. If you can help me produce faculty, staff, and students, then we're going to have this indeed preeminent 21st century institution. And finally, the fifth hallmark of an outcomes-oriented academic organization is fostering a culture of advancement and development with a diverse portfolio of fundraising. There's much here to be discussed when we talk about fundraising. And, you know, we hear the notion and the concept of, oh, fundraising, oh, you know how to fundraise. Well, if really you were around fundraising, you realize that fundraising occurs when there is a cause to be made, a case to be made as to why one will give you money. Here's the thing, here's a little secret. No one will simply give me money because I ask for it. They want to know, how will it be used? It's not going to be used to pay for bills that you could pay for yourself. They want to know, are you currently paying your bills? How many of you got friends and family members? I do too. And they want to borrow money. I may have a little money, but why would I give it to you just to simply waste that money? I mean, I have friends and you're like, let me borrow $5, but I've seen you spend your $5 doing it this way. No, I will keep my $5, pass it to my sons, and ensure this is the spirit of philanthropy. Philanthropy is stewardship. I steward over my monies. I give to worthwhile causes. And then here's how this works. They give to an initiative, a case that they support, that's strong and thriving and outcomes oriented. And guess what? The monies that the university was using in that direction can now be redistributed into other directions that are also efficiently managed. This is the spirit of philanthropy. And guess what? It's not a one-man show. It's a university-wide show. So when I talk about a diverse portfolio development, I'm not just simply talking about research federal government dollars. That's a very important space. We have over $30 million a year coming into this institution under the great work of the Vice President of Research and many of the faculty members here. I know of what we're gaining and I know the sources, but when we talk about a diverse portfolio, we mean private foundations, major donors, individuals. There may be an individual who I would love to support a brand new theater program. Do I have theater faculty? Do you have a venue that will support that? Do you have enough students there? We have to be very imaginative about philanthropy. And make no mistake, we're going to still receive and pursue and push STEM-generated funding from the federal government. But in order to survive in the 21st century, as is everyone, you must have a diverse portfolio where you're not completely dependent in such a way that the institution now becomes just an institution that does one thing. We want to do multiple things because we want to appeal to multiple constituencies, multiple foundations, multiple donors, all types of donors. And so I will be spending a lot of time with our executive council, with our dean's council, the university council. You'll note that these are 3 new constructions that I will talk in the coming weeks about, where everyone in the institution will begin to work with me in understanding that our institution, our administrators, our faculty members, our staff members need to be both internal managers but also external liaisons. liaisons. We have to be able to work both internally and externally. We work internally so that we can develop ourselves externally. You don't go external until you make sure the internal is together. Now, make no mistake, there are some programs that are already ready to be leveraged tomorrow because they're outcome-centered. When I talk about this outcome-centered philosophy, it won't be any problem for them to say, oh, here's our production. I don't have a problem with that. You produce, I don't have any problems. But there will be other areas where we have to establish what these outcomes are. And guess what? We're in it together. This is not an administration where you're going to come out of the blue and I come and talk to you and it's like, oh, you're out of here. No, we're going to work together to discover what are appropriate outcomes for your unit. Outcomes that will push us into the 21st century. Outcomes that will help us to fulfill a 10-year plan. Outcomes that will help us to be the kind of institution that individuals want to give to. And of course, they won't be outcomes like my sons will do when I suggest, if I just get 2 B's and 1 A and 3 A, is that enough? No, we're going to push ourselves. Outcomes just essentially tell us, how do we know when we get there? How are we measuring our progress there? That's all outcomes are. And so Dr. Griffin and the Institutional Research and Effectiveness Office will be joined at my hip in helping me, along with a number of different units, and in my one-on-one meetings with various unit leads to begin this. And to this point, fostering a culture of advancement and development, a diverse portfolio of fundraising. To this end directly, pertaining to advancement and development, my wife and I, and my sons, we are pleased to announce a gift to the university of a $100,000 endowment at $20,000 annually. We were not asked to do this by the Board of Trustees. I was not told to do this by the Board of Trustees. I had to talk to my wife. Paperwork's been signed so that if anybody wants to go and look and say, is he serious about that? Yes, $20,000 annually for a fully endowed student scholarship for our students here. Now, what's important about this? Thank you. And thank you. What's very important about this? We talk about crises and leadership and fundraising and who's going to give us money. I'm the chief executive officer of this great university. I'm asking people to give to this great university. If I'm not giving to this university, then why would anyone want to give to the university? When I say to myself and to potential donors and internally and to students, do you really care? You really care? Yeah, I really care, because this is what I'm beginning to do. And that's just a start. And this is the kind of culture that I intend to foster here. I intend to foster a culture where we lead by doing, not simply saying. I'm not at all impressed with words, and that's just something that I'm well known for. Not at all, because I'm not a man of words. I've heard that I'm 40 years old, although in 10 years I'll be 50, so I don't exactly know when is old or young. I always say, let your conversation be filled with works, filled with them. For every word is there a work concerning this, Dr. Johnson. Oh, you're student-centered, but are you student-centered? Are you at the games? Will I be at the games? I will be at the shed first quarter, but I'm going to leave in mid-quarter. I won't stay the entire time, so you guys can have fun in the shed. Now, I won't damage it, but I do want to just go and kind of hang out in the shed. I want to see what the shed is about. I do. I saw the videos. I'm going to the shed. I'm going to ball and parlay. I'm going to ball and parlay. When I talk about innovative and expanded academic programs, well, have you ever expanded academic programs? Well, interdisciplinarity is a prime opportunity for all of our non-STEM fields here. Colleagues at Drexel University have a program, Science and Technology and Society, and the main thing they're looking for are arts and humanities and letters professors who can help translate what our colleagues in the STEM are doing to the wider population. I'm an English guy. I'm an arts and humanities guy. That's my discipline. I wrote a couple of books on Du Bois. I know the chairman didn't mention that. I know people are going to say, how did a Du Bois scholar get to become the president of Du Bois and Booker T. Washington? And maybe if someone sets up a lecture, I can give you a full exegesis on how is it that a man can be and possess a Washingtonian philosophy and yet write 2 books on W.B. Du Bois. Again, innovative. Not in a box. Oh, well, you can't like Du Bois and Washington. They both joint published their essays in a 1907 book together. W.B. Du Bois taught here very briefly. Booker T. Washington esteemed Du Bois, and W.B. Du Bois esteemed Booker T. Washington. There's a lot that we can talk about. But again, when we talk about words and deeds, I'm not just telling you what to do and I'm backing away. I'm going to be in there talking with you about ways to do it and to do it myself. We talk about efficient resource management. Dr. Johnson, why are we doing this? Here are the reasons why. Here are the outcomes produced. Here are the outcomes not produced. In consultation with the board, in consultation with the executive council, here is the reason why we can or cannot do this. Here's what's coming in. Here's what's going out. Now, of course, I won't be able to share the details of every single thing, but I will with university council, your staff senate president, faculty senate president, SGA president, all of which I'll meet with regularly, either bi-weekly or every week. Those meetings are already scheduled. People will be informed because I need an educated campus constituency, an educated alumni constituency. I need an educated faculty, staff, and student body in terms of how do you manage and run a 21st century organization. It's not, I have an idea, let's spend $1 million on it. We cannot do that. It's not, well, we should do this, but based on what data? Do you know how much it costs? Yeah, these are the kinds of questions I'll ask and put back to you. And I'll visit alumni chapters and I'll visit students. I'm going to have listening meetings of students and faculty groups. The faculty senate president will help organize the listening meetings. Faculty members, not just the chairs and the deans, the faculty, in groups, in settings throughout the year, listening meetings where I will come and allow you to talk. This will not be a monarchy. This is not an institution that will stifle the best ideas, the best performance. I want the best to rise to the top. I want the best ideas. We talk about another great figure of this institution, George Washington Carter, and you hear this term, organic, and we blow past this term because we think of organic foods and it's of the earth, but what it really means is all the particles of the environment, the soil, the sun, the water, the rain, all of it plays a role in the production of the eventual tree and the eventual fruit that comes from it. Every single person here must play a role. It's not Dr. Johnson's success and failure. You know what? If I succeed, it's because of you. If I do not succeed, it's because of you. It works both ways. If I succeed, it wasn't me. All of the elements of the soil and the rain and the sun came together and we got it done. And if I didn't, it didn't. And I'm a part of that as the Chief Executive Officer. So when I talk about words and deeds, that's very important. And then finally, and I think some of you are noting your time, and the chairman is very pressed on time. The question of was he have enough to say? Oh, do I? I have much more to say. I am so ready for Monday. I'm so ready for next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. Every single day, I will serve Mother Tuskegee. I will live Tuskegee. And it's not about my words here today. It'll be my deeds. Watch me. See me. The last thing I would like to share are my 3 2014-15 goals. 1, the entirety of the year will be devoted, number 1, to the development of program and unit outcomes for all administrative units, student support units, student affairs units, academic department units. We will spend the year doing that. No, this is not a top-down outcomes. These are your outcomes. These will be done organically. We need to baseline what has been the last 3 years. And no, you're not being compared arts and letters to STEM. It won't be based on comparing apples and oranges. You are an orange, what can you do as an orange? You are an apple, keep being an apple. But we must develop outcomes by the end of this year so that we can begin at the beginning of next year fully understanding how we're going to get where we're going to be in 10 years. This is absolutely essential. Number 2, a comprehensive self-study of the institution. I've been through 3 presidential transitions, and it amazes me that an individual can come to an institution on day 1 and presume they know the entirety of the institution. I don't know the entirety of this institution. But when I say a comprehensive self-study, I also don't mean an email here, a phone conversation there. You trying to get me to meet with the president. You need to understand how I operate. It will be done in the course of a self-study where every divisional unit, its heads, will contribute to telling me what is going on at this institution. Now, I'm young and not dumb. That's why I'm having listening meetings also. I'm going to sit with the students. I'm going to sit with the faculty. I'm going to sit with staff. I'm going to sit with the community. I'm going to have my ear to the ground. And listening means listening. It doesn't mean because I show up, I'm going to promise you something. I will never promise what I don't intend to deliver. If I don't know, I will say I don't know. If I say I will do it, I will do it. If I have to break my neck doing it, because integrity is the greatest 9-letter word. By the way, I have to tell you, on Twitter and Facebook, I do my greatest 7-letter word is purpose, and my greatest 8-letter word is humility. I enjoy thinking of things like this because it communicates ideas that I want to live by, that I hope my boys live by, and what I hope this institution lives by. And lastly, number 3, the installation and implementation of a management system for institutional effectiveness and planning and continuous assessment of units. And this also includes feedback and engagement from our students. I've already preliminarily met with certain staff members, and these staff members are very much aware that there will be a method, a way in which we're able to get feedback about what you're doing from the people that are directly affected by it. We need to know, what do they think? And when we move that measure higher, we want our students 100% satisfied with every single thing we do. And until we get to 100%, guess what? We're going to keep pressing. Keep pressing. Keep pressing. So the development of outcomes for every single unit, a comprehensive self-study, and the installation of a management system. And this management system, to be clear, is not just simply a computer system. It means a management system, how I manage, how I lead, the minuting of minutes, agendas, memorandums, briefs, a fully functional outcomes-oriented university, because I'm a fully functional outcomes-oriented man. And this is how I would like for Tuskegee to move into the future. And finally, in sum, my administrative philosophy will be transparent, consistent, collaborative, and particularly communicative to the entire community, including all of its friends and supporters. What I say broadly here, I may go in more detail with executive council. What I say in executive council might be in less detail with certain groups of students if I'm empathing at a football game. But there will be consistency. There will be communication, both in writing and in speech. I generally prefer the right, so that I'm not at all misquoted. Even as I speak today, the media who's currently here is in possession of my remarks. The Board of Trustees are in possession of my remarks. The alumni should be in possession of my remarks at this moment. So I would like to ask you in closing to do two things. I'm asking Tuskegee University, faculty, Tuskegee University, staff, Tuskegee University, students, Tuskegee University, alumni, Tuskegee University, supporters, friends, future students. I'm asking you to do two things. I'm asking you to, number one, trust the Tuskegee tradition. Number two, I'm asking you to trust the Tuskegee trajectory. Thank you.
There he is. That's our new president. And if there's any doubt in anybody's mind whether or not this man knows where he's going, self-examine yourself. So with that, thank you so much for coming. The president and his family will assemble in the back for a quick greet. Make it quick because we're on a tight schedule. We know some of the students will have to go back to class. He'll have plenty of time to shake hands that he missed, but we do want to give a little opportunity because there may be some people traveling, because he wants to be visible and we're not going to hide him. So as he and I come down the aisle, family will join us. We'll be in the back in about 5 minutes. So I want you to be very quiet as we get out.